What's up, y'all?
What's up, people?
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah.
We have been busy. We're always busy, but we've been super busy because we have a brand new book that's out now called The Marriage Cheat Codes, Everyday Tools to Make Marriage Easy. We launched it in time for Valentine's Day, Tuesday, February 13th. But guess what? It's available now on Amazon
Yeah.
in ebook or paperback format. So we want you to get a copy for you. We want you to get a copy for your friends,
Right?
your family. This makes a great gift for a bride and groom to be, a single who aspires to be a spouse. And listen, it's called the Marriage Cheat Codes, but it's not just for married folk. It's for singles, dating, engaged, obviously, of course, for those that are married, but really everyone can get something out of this book to ensure that when you get married, if you're not married already, you also will have a marriage that will thrive.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So we are doing a fresh topic for you today, as usual. And this topic is very important in marriage. It's very key to making a marriage work, among
Yeah.
other things. So, Mark, why don't you give them the topic?
So today's topic, I'm very excited about today's topic.
Oh, gosh.
Today's topic is how to take your sex life to the next level,
Oh, man.
or how to improve your sex life, right? So this is for the married folks, of course.
Yes.
If you're not married,
Click
Be-
off and order a book. Click off. Log out. Sign out. Close the window.
right.
Or go enjoy one of our previously uploaded videos. And while you're at it, head to Amazon.
Right. So
Because this is a faith-based channel. So we are not promoting fornication.
Well, exactly. And this is for the married folks and under the covenant of marriage, how you can take your sex life to the, or how you can improve it. Now, we're not talking about intimacy, although intimacy falls, can be intertwined with sex. So we may get into that stuff, but we want to talk about sex because a lot of marriages are struggling because they're struggling in the bedroom. Okay. And it's a key component to the connection that you must build with your spouse. What happens in the bedroom? And a lot of people think they know what to do in the bedroom, but it's not until you get to that place with your wife where you can be fully, or your spouse, where you can be fully transparent, fully communicative, right? And engage them in conversations and understand their needs, understand their wants, understand their desires. Like there's so many things that go into having a great sex life. So let's start it off with this. In your bedroom must be hot and it must be holy.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Your bedroom must be hot and holy. And what do I mean by holy? A lot of people think that holy means conservative, holy means covered up. But the true authentic definition of holy based on the Bible is holy just means separated. It just means exclusive. So you are exclusively separated and presented to God. That's what he requires when it comes to holiness. So if we take that analogy, that definition, and put it in the bedroom, if you want your bedroom to be holy, then it needs to be exclusive. So you are exclusively devoted to your spouse.
Yes.
And in exclusivity, there is freedom. Like we have to start getting to the place where, because we are exclusively intimate with our spouse and no one else, there's freedom there.
Yeah.
We don't have to be coy. We don't have to be shy.
Right.
We don't have to worry about consequences of being promiscuous or
Right.
running the streets and being with multiple partners.
Yeah.
There is so much freedom in being holy with your spouse.
Yeah. I think that's great, Mark. And when you touched on not having to be coy, it made me think of there may be some women who really need to hear this, especially. I find women struggle with this more, especially if you grew up the way I did.
Right.
I grew up in very conservative Pentecostal circles.
Yeah.
And so, as such, they were just always telling us, hey, don't fornicate, don't fornicate, don't fornicate.
Right.
That was right to tell us that. But then they never gave us a healthy dose along with that to say, however, when you're married, feel free.
Yeah.
However, when you're married, feel at ease. However, when you're married, have fun. Those terms were never used when they were conversing with us about how to conduct ourselves as young women. And I've talked to too many young women who grew up in church and had the same experience I had, where it was hard initially not to be coy.
Right.
It was hard to feel comfortable at first.
Right.
And so I would say that I totally agree with you that when you're in the bedroom with your husband, you don't have a reason to have to feel coy or to feel awkward, even though that might be the initial feeling.
Right.
If, for me, I kept myself until marriage. So I literally came into the marriage with no experience.
Yeah.
But I also think, Mark, what's important for women to know, which is what I found out through personal experience,
Yeah.
is that sometimes women are coy because they're also insecure and self-conscious
There you
about
go.
their body.
There you go.
Or in my case, lack of experience initially.
Yeah.
But I've realized that with a husband, if you have the right man, he's not there picking you apart and saying, oh, I wish you were this shape or
Yeah.
this size.
Yeah.
If you're with the right husband, he's not there saying, oh, I wish you had more experience. How come you don't know? I think the right man is willing to grow with you.
Grow with you, because the bedroom not only has to be holy, but it has to be hot. The bedroom has to be hot, because a cold bedroom is a dangerous bedroom.
Well,
We need to make this thing hot. It needs to be burning with attraction. It needs to be burning with desire. It needs to be burning with passion, because that's the way that God intended it.
Right.
So the only way for it to be hot is for there to be full transparency and full communication.
Yes.
So if you're dealing with your spouse who may be reserved in a particular area of your sex life, you need to have conversations about that.
yeah. So communication is
Yeah,
key.
yeah. And especially if you're the guy,
Right.
because guys naturally probably would be more risk takers, more open to trying new things and all that. And if you're dealing with a woman who is unsure
Yeah.
about how she feels, how it will feel, then open up the lines of communication and do it in a way that you're trying to assist and help her. You're not putting her down. You're not comparing her to either someone you've had, someone you've been with, or something your eyes may have come across,
Right.
or your imagination is taking you to a place,
Right.
and you're saying, I wish my spouse did this or that. And we'll get into, I think, the next level of how to really improve your sex life. But to really drill down on this point, the right man will be able to love his wife
Yeah.
to a place where he can enjoy his wife.
That's so good. And it's so true. And
Yeah.
I think the patience, has to go both ways, or the willingness to understand has to go both ways.
Yeah.
So just as much as a wife wants her husband to be patient with her, the wife also has to understand that she can't always say no. She can't always.
Say that again. I need you to say that again.
Okay. So as the wife, you cannot always say no.
Okay.
And I'm speaking to wives because I feel like it's rare that the husband is going to ever say no. I won't say it never happens, but it's more rare. It's more rare.
Let me interject and say, if your husband is repeatedly turning you down, that's a red flag.
Yeah. More so than the woman, right? Because women can have a whole lot of different reasons
Come
why they're
on.
saying no. It can be
Facts.
trauma. It can be shyness.
Yeah.
It can, it can be apprehension. Doesn't always mean that they're stepping out. Because
Right.
women, we have just a plethora of reasons why we may say no, even though you shouldn't always say no. That's not healthy. But you're saying if it's a guy that's always saying no, it's a red flag. Now, could the red flag simply be that he's unhealthy?
It could be he's unhealthy. It could be a lot's going on in his mind. But guys have a way. We have a knack for blocking things out in order to get down in the bedroom. We can be under stress, but we can compartmentalize that stress and then perform in the bedroom. Sometimes it leaks into our psyche and it gets into our bedroom, and then we're not able to perform as we want, or we're not as desiring of our spouse in that moment, so we turn it down. But if he's consistently turning it down, there's some questions there. The question is he getting it from another place?
Uh-oh.
The other question is, what has preoccupied his mind to the degree that he doesn't want you like that? Because here's something I've learned about men. For the most part, there's probably a stat on this, but what I've known from experience is that a man's sexual drive resets about every 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
So, and for some men, it's higher than that, it's faster than that. But every 3 days, every 72 hours, we're completely ready. Even before that, we're ready.
I was about to say, like, you've told me that
Yeah.
guys are usually ready before that time frame.
Yeah, we're always ready, but completely reset.
Oh, okay.
Where we can't take it anymore.
Okay.
Every three, some men 4, but every 3 days, we're completely full. We're completely full on the inside, and we need somewhere to release. And so
Y'all have it down to like hours, 72 hours. Wow.
well, I haven't even gotten into the fact that for a guy, we're constantly thinking about it. So even if we haven't reset, we're thinking about it multiple times a day.
Okay.
Like, see, these women out here don't understand the brain and the sexual drive of a man. We're thinking about it. We're seeing how we can actually always tie something to it. I mean,
Right.
you've experienced that, babe.
Yes,
Like,
I have.
you'll be folding the napkin to set the table, and I'd be like, girl, I love how you fold that napkin.
Yeah, and I'm just really just trying to
It's just-
set the table. I mean, in peace. But
Right. So let's talk a little bit then about compatibility.
yeah, well, I wanted to just finish up
Okay.
not always saying no.
All right.
Because first of all, biblically, once we're married, our bodies as women belong to the husband, and the husband's body belongs to
That's
us.
what Paul says.
And so we should even biblically, you shouldn't just always be denying. And I just want women to understand the potential repercussions if you always say no.
Yeah.
Because if you always say no and then there's severe consequences, I'm not excusing a man's poor behavior, but at least I wanted to explain it.
That's good. That's good.
So there's no excuse for adultery, fornication,
Stepping out.
sinning in other ways.
Yeah.
But I do know that you don't want to consistently say no and just give the enemy a loophole. Don't make the enemy's job easy.
Yeah. Yeah. When you say no to a man consistently as it relates to sex, it hits him on multiple levels. It makes him feel undesirable, but it also hits him in his ego, because men were naturally built to perform and to conquer. And so even if you're our wife and we haven't conquered you in a while, and you're telling us, please don't come over here and claim your territory, then we're struggling, because we wonder, are we good enough? We wonder, does she feel like I'm good enough? Do I please her? Do I make her feel great? It hits us on multiple levels in our
Yeah.
ego because we always want to be the best. We want to know that we're the best.
Yeah.
We're the best you've had. We do it for you
Right.
because that makes us feel like a man. And if you're continuously saying no,
Yeah.
then we question that.
Wow, that's good.
We question that. All right, so hot and holy is really important when it comes to improving your sex life. Let's talk about compatibility. And if you do marriage the Bible's way,
Right.
then you will have no prior experience in the area of your bedroom before getting married. And there's a notion out there that how can I buy a car unless I test drive it?
Well, your spouse is not a car; they're a human being. So how about that? I hate that analogy. I am not an automobile. I was not manufactured in the Ford factory,
Yeah.
or. So I've always hated that analogy, Mark.
It's a terrible analogy because it also suggests that how I meet you is how it needs to stay.
That's good too.
And so if I like a car and I test drive a car, then I'm buying it based on how it's performing today. And I say I want to take this home. When you're getting married,
Yeah.
you're in it for the long haul. So there should be a notion that we will grow into peaks and into pinnacles
That's good.
of sex and intimacy. That where we start is actually the baseline, is
That's
actually
good.
the beginning.
Yeah.
This thing will get 10 times better as we mature and as we learn each other.
Yeah.
And so when you say, I can't marry someone because I haven't test driven the merchandise,
Right.
what you're suggesting is whatever you get on day one, it's all that you're ever gonna have.
And even, you know what, Mark? That's so good because even on the flip side, let's say you were to test drive it.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
But then it can start to go down because of
Yes.
sickness.
Come on.
Because
Facts.
of age, because of so many things can happen to you that you just weren't expecting. So no matter what you get in the beginning doesn't mean that's how it's going to end. So of course I'm not suggesting that couples, that are engaged should start thinking now like, oh my gosh, it's going to go down.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is so many things happen in life. People get in accidents, people get sick, women have babies. I mean, all those things can change your body type, can change how often you want to be intimate. I mean, all of those things can change. And so I love how you said it's a terrible analogy because what you purchase today, what you bring home today rather, doesn't mean that that's how it's going to always be.
Yeah, you are short circuiting the potential of your sex life with your spouse because you're thinking like, if she's not great today, then I shouldn't marry that.
And the car is a terrible analogy because often once we have driven the car for some time, if we don't like it, we take it back.
You can't return your spouse.
No.
You can't return your spouse. You're going to have to work on
All
that.
sales are final. Okay? That's what God is saying when you make these vows. All sales are final.
You're going to have to work on that. And it's the beauty of marriage being a marathon that we go through many different turns and twists in marriage, and we grow in areas and we respond to situations and we
Yes.
get through storms and we hold it together. And sometimes it's like you're in another world in the bedroom because it's so great. Other times there's pressures in life and you just do it because, hey, this is something that we do to stay together, but it's not as great as it was 2 months ago.
Right.
But it matures your relationship.
Absolutely.
Because you're just not in it for what you can get.
Right. That's key. You're not in it for what you can get. You actually should be in it for what you can give. Because if both parties think about what can I give to please my spouse, then both spouses are going to be pleased on a consistent basis.
Talk about it. Give us some more on that because It's about how you give in the
Yeah,
bedroom.
I think that sometimes women can be nervous to try certain things because it makes them uncomfortable, right? It makes us feel a little awkward. But
Yeah.
if we could ever wrap our minds around, but he's being open and honest enough to say, this is what I like or this is what I want to try. Um, and you can wrap your head around the fact that if you please him, he's going to do everything in his power to return the favor. When you have a godly spouse, they're not in it just to take, they're in it to give. But what makes it so powerful is when you come together, if both parties are like, I want to give my spouse what they desire, then this is a time when both parties win. Because sometimes,
Yeah.
just in regular everyday life of marriage, you have to give something up you don't necessarily get.
Yeah.
But in this case, this is an aspect of marriage that if both parties give, both parties can also get at the same time.
It's so good because I've learned as we've had our own journey and how we've just really come together well. When you start saying, it doesn't matter what I want,
Yeah.
I have to listen to my spouse and give them what they want, then all of a sudden it goes to the next level because we're not out here for what we think works
Yeah.
with our spouse. We're out
Correct.
here for what actually works based on what they're communicating.
Right.
And so it is such, sex is such an unselfish act when done properly in the confines of marriage, that when God looks at it, it is it is such a holy moment for him
Yeah.
because he sees two people that are opposites biologically coming together to be one because they're willing to be unselfish
Yeah.
as it relates to their needs,
Correct.
and they want to do everything they can to please their spouse.
Yeah.
And that's when God unites our souls in marriage and in sex and intimacy. That's when he unites our hearts. That's when it's impossible for the enemy to break in to the bedroom and steal someone's heart because we're so interconnected, so intertwined, because we have no problem with sacrificing and
Yeah.
being unselfish.
That's good.
And I think that gets us to the place where we started talking a little bit here about needs and desires, and that brings so much power
Yeah.
into the bedroom. And what we also want to put out there is, man, everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Yep.
And one of the best things you can do is just talk.
Like, yeah, like we said at the beginning, communication is key.
Yeah, and just say, hey, how do you feel about this? I think men, I'm not in people's bedroom, but because of how men are wired, we need to open up our ears to not only hear what a woman says in the bedroom, but what she doesn't say, and be able to read her body. Not only read what she expresses verbally, but read her body so that just by when she moves, just by how she responds to something, we know if it's good or if it's not good.
Yeah,
we
and
need
vice
to,
versa, right?
yeah,
Same for the woman.
yeah,
Just paying attention to body language on top of what your husband may be saying to you,
yeah,
paying attention to his body language. I think that's very key, and it just helps you be that much more sharing a bond that is unbreakable. And this is why marriage is so sacred, because it really is supposed to be holy in terms of consecrated and set apart.
yeah,
It really is supposed to be exclusive,
yeah,
because this, this is a bond that God really intended for you to share with only your spouse,
yeah, yeah.
not anybody else.
Not anybody else, not anybody else. And Jen, I want to extend this a little bit. 'Cause I know we usually wrap up here, but extend it a little bit because I want to just talk about sex and schedules. Sex and schedules, how to improve your sex life. As you just grow in your marriage and other things are introduced like kids, responsibilities, work, sometimes it can be difficult to carve out time to have sex. I think it's important that couples prioritize sex and don't allow other things to take up your time. And don't be afraid to schedule it.
I know a couple right now where the wife, she's the organized one in the marriage, and she shared when we had a closed session with wives one time that she actually puts it on their schedule. And somebody in the audience was like, "Don't you think that's a little robotic?" And she's like, "Our lives are so bananas that if we," and so she said it's not so robotic to where if it's not on the schedule, her husband can't,
Right.
like she doesn't say to him, nope, it is not Tuesday.
Gotta make an appointment.
Right.
Yeah.
So she said it's not that she said where it becomes less robotic is the fact that she doesn't say to him, you can only do it on these days. But what she has in her schedule is at least if it doesn't happen the other days of the week organically, these are days and times when I know we're free.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna schedule it. And she said it usually just goes on her calendar, not even on the family calendar, just so that it feels a little more spontaneous for him. So she said for her, it's not always spontaneous, but it is for him. She switches it around based on what their schedule is like on every given week. And he just is out here thinking, man, she's just great at making, but she said that the way her life is structured, if she doesn't do that, she knows it's going to fall down and it's too important to her to fall down.
I love that.
So
I love that a wife took the time to say, if this is going to happen, we have to schedule it. And it's so important that we're going to be intentional, or I'm going to be intentional about it and make sure it happens. To me, that helps the situation when life becomes so busy. And if you're not careful, you'll turn around and too much time has elapsed. And you're like, it's been forever and we haven't been together. One of the glues, one of the pillars of a great marriage is sex and intimacy. And if you leave too much of a gap there, the enemy will slip right in, because we're human. We have needs, we have desires, and he can tell, okay, they've been so busy, they haven't been together. Maybe I'll slip this in. Maybe I'll give them a passing thought. And that's when we get into trouble. So I love what you said about scheduling it. I have so much more.
maybe there's a part two.
Yeah, I think we want to do a part two because I have so much more that I want to get into. But this has been great. And I think this has been really helpful to marriages out there, of how you can improve your sex life. And maybe, this will really bring you guys together.
And I do want to say, Mark, for couples that feel like, man, how are they talking about this? We can't say as Christians, God created sex for marriage, but then turn around and say we shouldn't talk to married couples about it.
Yeah.
I know firsthand, coming from conservative circles, it can feel like we should never talk about it. But I think just like any other challenge in a marriage that God would want us to address, this is another one, because he created it for marriage. So he wants it to be great. He wants it to work. He wants it to be fulfilling.
Come on.
And sometimes you can't get there unless you talk about it, and unless you're willing to converse and open up and say, here's where it could be better. Here's where, based on what Mark and Jen said today, I feel like we're falling down, and work on it.
And work on it, because we can talk about finances in marriage, but we can't talk about sex in marriage. It's so integral to a successful marriage. You don't want to shy away from it. You want to communicate so that God can be in every aspect of your marriage.
Yes.
And what I have learned is that, especially in Christian circles, there's just not enough information on this, and people are left to think about it themselves. And I think we need to be just a little bit more open in the confines of marriage to get some information that will help our marriages thrive.
Absolutely.
As it relates to sex. So
Yes.
this has been a great episode, and prayerfully, hopefully, we could come back with a part two on this. But we want you to grab the book, The Marriage Cheat Codes. In fact, there's some tips in there. There's some information that we put in the book on intimacy. And we want you to grab that, go right to Amazon right now and pick that book
Yes.
up. But this has been another episode of Breakfast with Mark and Jen, and we will catch you next time. Peace out.